The flowers were perfect. The music was perfect. My dress was perfect. But when those doors opened, my entire side of the aisle was empty. Every single chair gone. And before the night was over, my own father walked through those doors with 2 police officers on my wedding day. This is the story of how I lost my family and finally found myself. My name is Lily Hargrove. And I grew up in a house that looked beautiful from the outside. Big windows, a manicured lawn, a father who wore expensive suits and smiled for photographs. But inside that house, love had conditions. Strict ones. You obeyed or you were punished. You agreed or you were invisible. You followed the plan. Their plan. Or you simply didn't matter. For 26 years, I followed the plan. Until I met Daniel. Daniel wasn't what my father wanted for me. He wasn't from money. He wasn't from the right neighborhood. He didn't wear a suit to dinner. But he was the first person in my life who loved me without a list of requirements. When I told my father I was going to marry him, the room went cold. That man, my father said slowly, is beneath this family. I looked at him and said, then maybe I'm beneath this family too. That was 3 years ago. And that was the moment the war began. They didn't scream. They didn't threaten, not openly. Men like my father are too smart for that. Instead, they went quiet. And quiet, in my family, was always more dangerous than loud. My mother stopped calling. My brother stopped texting. Invitations to family dinners disappeared. I was still alive. I just no longer existed to them. And every few months, my father would send a message. Not to reconcile. Not to apologize. Just to remind me that I could come back if I left Daniel. I never replied. Most people think the cruelest thing a family can do is scream at you. They're wrong. The cruelest thing is to act like you were never born. The morning of our wedding, I woke up at 5 a.m. I lay in the dark and listened to Daniel breathe. And I thought, today is the day everything changes. I had sent my family an invitation. Not because I expected them to come, but because I refused to be the one who didn't try. My mother called 2 days before. Her voice was careful. Measured. We'll be there, she said. I wanted to believe her. I chose to believe her. That was my mistake. The ballroom was everything I had dreamed of. Cream and gold. Soft candlelight. White roses everywhere. Guests filled half the room. Daniel's family. Our friends. People who had actually shown up for us. Over the years. But my side was a graveyard of empty chairs. Daniel found me before I walked out. He took both my hands. They're not here, he said gently. I already knew. I had already seen. My phone showed one message. From my father. This wedding does not have our blessing. You chose him over your family. Live with that. No call. No explanation. Nothing. Just a sentence designed to land like a fist. I stood there for a long moment. And then something shifted inside me. Not sadness. Something harder than sadness. I handed my phone to Daniel. I straightened my back. And I said, open the doors. They thought empty chairs would break me. They forgot. I had spent my whole life standing alone in that family. This was nothing new. People stared when I walked out. Some whispered. Some looked away. Some had tears in their eyes. Before I even reached the altar, I didn't look at the empty chairs. I looked at Daniel. Only Daniel. When the officiant asked if anyone objected, silence filled every corner of that room. Then I heard something. Soft at first. Then louder. Someone started clapping. Then another person. Then the whole room. I stood there in my wedding dress, while strangers gave me a standing ovation for simply refusing to fall apart. And when I spoke my vows, my voice didn't shake. I choose you, I said. Even when the world turns its back on me. I choose you. Daniel couldn't stop crying. Neither could I. We kissed. We were married. And for exactly 47 minutes. I thought the worst was over. I was just married an hour ago. My father's jaw tightened. The officer looked uncomfortable. Ma'am, your father has filed a report. He's alleging financial fraud and forgery of legal documents. The room erupted. Gasps. Chairs scraping. Voices. And my father, standing in the middle of it all. Like he had just won something. He came to my wedding. With police officers. Instead of a gift. Let that sink in. My father spoke loudly. Deliberately. He wanted an audience. He claimed I had stolen from the family trust. That I had forged his signature on documents. That I was mentally unstable. And had manipulated Daniel into this marriage. Every word. A lie. But said so confidently. So calmly. That some people in that room shifted uncomfortably in their seats. That was the plan. He didn't need to prove it. He just needed to plant doubt. He just needed to ruin the night. He just needed to remind me that he still had power over me. At least, that's what he thought. Here's what my father didn't know. 3 years earlier, the same day he told me to leave Daniel or lose the family, I made a phone call to a lawyer. Her name was Sandra Mead. And over the next 3 years, I documented everything. Every threat. Every email. Every voicemail where he said he would destroy me financially if I didn't obey. Every transaction connected to the family trust. I didn't do it out of hatred. I did it because I knew men like my father always come back. And when they do, they come armed. So I made sure I was more armed than him. The smartest thing I ever did wasn't walking down that aisle alone. It was the phone call I made 3 years before the wedding. He walked out of my wedding reception with his head down, while my guests watched in silence. At the doorway, my mother appeared. She had been waiting outside the whole time. She looked at me. Her eyes were red. Emily, she started. Lily, I corrected quietly. She flinched. I'm sorry, she whispered. I looked at her for a long time. Then I said, you watched this happen. Every time. 4 years. And you called it love. I turned back to my reception. And the music started again. People say the most painful moment is when your father betrays you. They're wrong. The most painful moment is realizing your mother watched and did nothing. 2 months later, a letter arrived. Not an apology. A legal threat. My father demanded the return of family assets. My lawyer laughed when she read it. He's scared, she said. What do we do? I asked. She slid a folder across the desk. We finish this. We filed a countersuit. False police report. Years of documented financial coercion. Emotional abuse. All of it. When the case became public, His business partners started asking questions. Board members requested emergency meetings. Old friends went quiet. The man who had ruled every room for 30 years was suddenly the one being avoided. One night, 6 months later, a knock at the door. It was my mother. She looked older, smaller, like something inside her had finally collapsed. "I should have protected you," she said. "I know that now." I believed her. But belief doesn't undo damage. "You had years," I said softly. "You had choices. And every time, you chose him." She cried. "I didn't." "I hope you find peace, Mom," I said. "I really do. But not at my expense." I closed the door. That was the last time I saw her. The courtroom was nothing like the movies. No drama. No speeches. Just cold facts. Laid out one by one. In front of a judge. When it was my turn to speak, I stood straight. "I wasn't abandoned because I did something wrong," I said. "I was abandoned because I stopped obeying." My father sat 3 feet away. He didn't look at me once. The judge ruled quickly. False reporting, confirmed. Damages, awarded. Restraining order, approved. And just like that, the man who had controlled my life lost legal access to it. Forever. He thought he could use the law to destroy me. He didn't realize I had spent 3 years building a case he could never survive. 5 years passed. Daniel and I built a life. Quiet. Real. A home that felt like breathing. A daughter born on a Thursday morning, who will never know what it feels like to earn love. One afternoon, I saw my father's name in the news. Former executive. Legal troubles. Estranged family. I read it once. I closed the tab. And I went back to the kitchen, where Daniel was making breakfast. And our daughter was laughing at something on the floor. I felt nothing toward my father. No victory. No bitterness. Just nothing. And nothing, I've learned, is the most powerful feeling of all. They walked out on my wedding. To break me. They sent the police. To humiliate me. They filed lies in courtrooms. To destroy me. And I'm still here. Married. At peace. Untouchable. People think revenge is loud. Screaming matches. Public confrontations. Dramatic courtroom moments. But the real revenge, the revenge they never see coming, is silence. Is building a life so full that there's simply no room for them in it. Is waking up one morning and realizing you don't even think about them anymore. That's not just winning. That's freedom. And freedom was always the only thing I ever wanted.